Now joining us with more on the alleged Iran-Hezbollah connection is CBS News foreign affairs analyst Pam Falk. Pam, what do you make of this?
Well, it's very, very troublesome, and it's troublesome not only because this person, Dakduk, was 24 years with Hezbollah, but it also makes a relationship with Iran that much stronger in terms of funding insurgents. They've already, what this brigadier general said was that they are giving $3 million a month to the Quds force to insurgents in Iraq. This adds the Hezbollah component. It also really tanks the possibility of U.S.-Iran talks.
This comes at a time when the Iranian economy is a little bit weak. I mean, you see that there's people complaining about rationing of gasoline in a Persian Gulf state. It's almost unheard of.
Right. They are exporting more than they're consuming more than they're exporting. And the second issue is they also believe that there is quite a bit of smuggling. So they've really clamped down, put very serious restraints on domestic use of petroleum and oil. And at the same time, that has caused quite a bit of violence within Iran. And so they've got a lot of problems. This also comes at a time when the coalition, the 5 permanent members of the Security Council, are trying to impose more sanctions on Iran for its nuclear program, which is also what came up at the Putin-Bush summit or at least meeting in Kennebunkport with the 2 presidents.
From a strategic point of view, if you can think like an Iranian leader, what is the end game here?
The end game is to get a good negotiating position, number one, with the rest of the world. The second is to have the world talk to Iran. I mean, what they really want is direct talks with the United States. And the final thing is Shia expansionism. They are very worried that the Sunni states, Jordan, Egypt, Saudi Arabia, will be there more than they will be in Iraq after the war.
So, in their mind anyway, they're thinking that funding terrorism is a way to make them a player on the world stage?
Absolutely, yes. And also to be sure that they play a role in a post-United States Iraq. I mean, basically, whenever U.S. forces pull out, they want to make sure that they are not only in Iraq, but maybe governing it to a larger extent. And as a result, they're also Iran is funding Hezbollah. We know that, but we didn't know that until this press conference that Hezbollah may be a proxy for Iran within Iraq. That's the biggest problem. And that comes at a time when Iran was saying, why don't you talk to us to the United States? Why don't you talk to us and maybe then we could solve all the other issues like the nuclear issue. There is a proposal that's being circulated at the Security Council in the United Nations to have a freeze for freeze. In other words, freeze the sanctions, they freeze their uranium enrichment for a little while. That is not something that Iran says they're willing to do. And so you've got a real problem because this is also, Hezbollah, of course, is in Lebanon, and they've always been in Lebanon, and that's where the war came, as Lara Logan said, last year with Israel. So it's a very big problem. Also, you see Iran, Ahmadinejad met with Hugo Chavez last week, who also met with Putin. And so you've got the seed of a possible cartel for gas as well as for oil. That's what Putin really wants.
The 21st century axis of evil.
Yes.
Let's get back to
axis of oil. Anyway.
Axis of oil. Let's get back to Hezbollah. What is are they just sort of being duped by Iran, or we'll take your money, thank you very much, or do they want a wider piece of?
I think they want a wider piece. They don't want they don't want out of Lebanon. They've become a political party. I mean, they were really founded during the Lebanese Civil War. And they are in many ways at the behest of Syria, funded by Iran. And so the more aid they can give and the more they can have a future in what could be a Shia Iraq as far as they're concerned, the more interest they have. And so this is very troublesome at a time when, at least on the President Bush and President Putin summit, they seem to be saying things were united against Iran, but it really isn't. The meeting was pretty short on substance.
Well, let's talk about Putin's position with respect to that missile defense system. Is that being colored by his relationship now with Iran and Venezuela?
Well, I think they're unrelated, but his feeling And Putin's feeling for a long time has been Eastern Europe is still part of the former Soviet empire and sphere of influence. And so they don't want a missile shield. Now, the missile shield was set to be pointed at Iran to at least protect NATO countries and the United States with any potential missile launch from Iran. And so the idea here is set it in Poland or the Czech Republic, and President Vladimir Putin will not have it in any way in that area. He has suggested Azerbaijan, and he's also suggested southern Russia, and neither of those are possibilities that the United States will accept.
All right, Pam, very quickly, getting back to Iran, Joe Lieberman is among those, and very few
Right.
saying let's do military action against Iran. Are we going to just let this go on?
I think it's going to have to be negotiated. It would be very hard for the United States to launch any military action, or for Israel, which has always been a possibility to launch any military action. Iran is 3 times the size of Iraq. It has its nuclear weapons underground. It would be very tough.
All right, Pam, thank you very much.
Sure, Ed. My pleasure.
CBS News foreign affairs analyst Pam Falk joining us.